Ah, Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming here and being yoga together. It's been so long. It felt really weird not seeing you guys for that long. Very strange. I don't know. I feel like it's been a surreal period of time. Very different than my normal. Just a little heads up. I'm going to be sending out an email, but 2 weeks from today. Jason and I are meeting for an entire week, and unfortunately, the way the flights worked out, it's a Tuesday to Tuesday, which means I know how. Yay! I like thinking about it. That means 2 Tuesdays of no yoga. So the last Tuesdays of July, essentially. So we have today, and we have next week, and then not for. You're gone next week. Oh no, this is gonna feel long. Yeah, you're gonna have to find me on my YouTube channel, do a little yoga video or something. Or just call me. We could,
Yeah, talk me through it.
that's right. A little compression expansion reading together. How was that for you? But anyway, so I wanted to remember to tell you that. Otherwise, I'm really excited too about the Thursday yogas. I've got a really full group this Thursday, which means people register later. The choice of the deck of the lawn, or if it's pouring rain, not at all, I guess. And then the following Thursday, I actually only registered. So if you're looking to get out to the farm and do some yoga with us there, and hang out under the stone circle maple during the golden hour, it's really been glorious. And we've had such a variety of weather since we started, but every single one has been beautiful. Right? It's been every single possible version of weather. It's just been glorious. So check that out. Haven't. Otherwise, I'm thinking about unwinding. I'm thinking about winding and unwinding. And I wish I could see into all of your brains right now and see what that brought up for you visually. But I was thinking about all the words and language that we have that we use to try and describe our personal physical or even emotional experience, right? We might say, gosh, I'm just feeling flat or run over, or, I feel like I'm being dragged behind a horse and cart, or I feel like I'm under so much pressure or what have you. And mind you, we also have very positive words to express delight and ease and all of that, fulfillment, contentment. But I feel like yoga is one of our best, most readily available go-to tools for helping us address whatever those conditions are that don't feel particularly great, and that we want to figure out how to move into another state, whether it's contentment, joy, ease, what have you. So what obviously there's a lot of different words, a lot of different conditions, but I was really thinking about winding and unwinding. I definitely got very wound up planning the big event of the wedding and trying to think about all the details and all the communications and so on. And interestingly, people kept saying it's going to be okay. I'm like, yeah, I'm not worried about it going wrong. I'm focused on making it go right. That doing my part, the things I can control, right? But for me, that was an incredible amount of communicating, more so than even normal. And what I find is when I go through periods like that, and it happens when I've got a lot going on that I'm in charge of or I'm at the center, I get to the point where I almost can't get my brain not to go forward and try and predict and try and plan and think about who should I connect. In fact, Jason goes, it just sort of describes it. I think of like one of those popcorn machines or the, with the balls in the air. So I'm just encouraging you to think about, what does your version of winding up look like? And again, sometimes winding up can be, getting charged for a thing, and it's in a really positive way. But I'm thinking more of that overwound up, where everything just becomes kind of tight and almost like you can't not think, act, just sit still, become a different thing than the wound. What gets you that way? How does it feel when you're that way? Does it show up in a particular place in your body? And what helps you unwind? Is it particular thoughts? Is it spending time in nature, beauty? I always talk about these as some of our assets for trying to step out of patterns that are not necessarily sustainable or healthy. I'm just curious, as I'm talking, are there any particular body areas or parts that are coming to mind for you when you think about being wound up and kind of overwhelmed? Neck and shoulders. Right here. So we got lots of people agreeing about neck and shoulders. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Yeah, and so something to just think about anatomically is that ideally what should often be driving us forward, literally, would be glutes. That should be our engine. And when we engage our glutes to move forward versus only hinging forward where they're tight, they're not actually working for us, they're just being pulled. When we engage our glutes, now we tend to straighten up and there's the opportunity for this whole area to be liberated even while doing. I was telling Jason this morning that one of the things that I'm noticing in the process of turning the house for the Airbnb, sometimes I'm doing it when there's plenty of time, and other times I'm doing it like, oh my, yeah, right, they're arriving, right? Especially with some of these like last minute reservations that have happened like the week after the wedding. It's like, but what I notice is, that I'll tighten up in here and I'll breathe faster or with less expansive, so shallower. And of course, it doesn't help me get it done faster. It just costs me. And I really feel it, pay for it later. And so, I've talked about this before. I have to remind myself to, again, use those glutes, get soft in here, maybe put on music that helps kind of create that state where I'm like, oh yeah, just loving life. And it's doing that deep and kind of ujjayi breath. That's what will get me using my core instead of here. Somehow ujjayi, even though I know we're using the throat, for me, it puts me into my core use more. And I don't know if that's true for everybody, but that's my experience over and over again. So especially vacuuming, which tends to be a very, if you don't do it right, it's very up here and it should be very in squatting and kind of, moving and, that's how you do it. Yeah. So just adding that for you to think about, and obviously we're good at doing it at yoga, or I think we are. We're definitely better at it here. And if we can get conscious enough, then we can hopefully bring it into daily life, into those activities that we tend to do with poor use or alignment of the body, and it tends to cost us somewhere else. And I think a lot of us, it is here. Maybe some people it's that lower back and so on. Yeah. Anything else bubbling up? The other body part? Yes. The guts. Yeah. Just kind of nervousness and overthinking and stress right there. Totally. I think you hit on something again. It's just a really common thing. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. Anybody else? Your jaw. Punching the teeth. Yeah. And the reminder, because again, really common, a reminder of how much that can relate to back here. And so even just doing movements, kind of organic back here can really help. And then of course, lion stretch. Oh, we'll start with that a little bit. Yeah. Well, let's start off on our back body. And I'm going to invite you first just to be flat, but in a moment, you're going to grab your block, whatever version of it you might want to put under the sacral triangle. Again, so much of our life, a lot of us are a little forward of neutral. We're going to remind the body how to unwind the front line. The anterior kinetic chain. We shall unwind it. So first, just remain flat, neutral, supported. You might use the words that help you the most, but perhaps inviting yourself to settle, sink, grow heavy. This is your yoga for the day. There is nothing you need to know, do, or accomplish. Let's begin, please, with a few sighing breaths. Inhaling slow, deep and wide. is one of those practices, side breath, that I find immediately does help my shoulders slide down. And then please, let's come into a few lion stretches. If you want to add arms to it, go for it. You might inhale and reach arms overhead. Opening that jaw wide. Remember, you can stick the tongue out. You can draw the base of it towards the base of the throat. You might even feel inspired at some point to take your jaw a little side to side, or bring your fingers to that jaw space and around the ear and give it some loving touch. Again, affirming, I am whole, I'm well, I'm safe. There's nothing in this moment to fix. And when you become just neutral again, corpse pose, please begin to roll the head side to side, and inviting you to progressively get organic and exploring, even subtle movements of going to one side and reaching the chin a little up and back, and start to release this architecture. It can also help us become more aware of what's involved, right? Front, back, down that kind of trapezius, scaling neck connection. Okay. Then inviting you to plant the feet, raise the hips, and place a block under the sacral triangle. I recommend usually, unless you don't like it, just being with knees bent initially. This can help just traction your low back a little bit. A lot of us tend to get kind of compressed in those lower vertebrae. If it feels nervy or something funky, like in the sciatic, adjust the block or come off. Otherwise, a few breaths, tuning in softly. And then at some point, you might extend the legs so that your body is just draped over the block. And here we have an opportunity to really let the hips go, let the thigh bones rotate, the feet relax open. As you breathe deeply, guiding breath into the low belly, that psoas, fight or flight muscles, as we often refer to them. Beginning to tune into your breath and staying here only as long as it feels really, really great. A wonderful unwinding for the body. And we're going to tune into breath, which is the ultimate unwinding tool. So you might begin to breathe only through the nose. Add that ujjayi throat contraction, great sounding breath. Lightly connecting tip of the tongue from the mouth. What happens if you add a very soft smile to the face? Nothing so big that someone could see it necessarily. You're not trying to achieve anything. Just a sort of acknowledgement inward of well-being. And maybe you have something you'd really like to appreciate about your body right now, its resilience, its ability to come through wind-ups, somehow unwind again. That's its own beautiful miracle. If you turn your gaze up and in, third eye, you might have a deepened introversion, deepened ability to sense what's in your body right now. And during this practice, what does it mean? Stay here as long as you need to. When you're ready, please come off the block, bring the knees into the belly, and just begin a little side to side movement. So this is just a really light spinal twist, actually, right? And what I personally find very surprising sometimes is how powerful it can feel. Wow, maybe you'll feel kind of unwinding into the kidneys, low back area. At some point, just settling on the back, getting a hold of both feet for happy baby. Maybe the blades of the feet, maybe hooking the fingers in between the big and second toe. If you need a strap, perhaps, please, please, please anchor shoulder heads down so that neck is liberated, right? So there's a lot of power in the core and, in that back body around the shoulder blades. That's what's allowing you to hold. See if you can tilt your tailbone a little towards the floor so that you're not curled off of the floor. And as you do that, my hope is you can then engage your knees down a little bit more and apply a couple, 3, whatever, really big breaths down into the low belly and into the hips. Oh, does that feel good? Such a simple pose. And then from here, at some point, inviting you to play with half straddle. These days, I like to start going back and forth with my hands still on my feet, if you're able to do that. Because I find I get a unique kind of hamstring stretch. And then I'll eventually slide my hands up the leg so that I can get the leg completely straight and point and flex. And I feel like that really helps unwind my whole posterior chain back line. Right? We've talked before about plantar fasciitis and how often it's really connected to tension up into the calves, the hammies, and so on. So this is a chance to notice what's in your side to side. Is it different? And would it feel good to now come into butterfly, heels at the butt, and then it'll play with another kind of unwinding. I find this so helpful for my hips. Ooh, my back just cracked. Yay! So it's bringing one foot kind of higher up the body. And as I do that, I let my body kind of roll to the other side, which it just naturally wants to do. Maybe yours will do that, maybe not, I don't know. And then we're going to plant the feet for bridge pose. Again, lots of ways to do each of these poses. I find anchoring my upper arms and working the shoulder blades in towards the spine prior to raising the hips really helpful for reducing neck pressure. You might also reach the chin up and back just a little so that you turn that curve at the neck. Yeah, and what's your version today? Feeling really good to just hold and squeeze that up. I find up and down a few times is usually what's needed for me to kind of, I guess, get to talk to all those muscles, particularly the glute muscles, that here we are getting to short engage after perhaps too much elongation and holding. Good. Tuning into that deeper, slower, wider breath. If going to your highest hip experience takes you into neck tension, then please minimize it. There's very little value at that last height. Maybe you get a little extra stretch through the front, but if it's at the cost of the neck, not interested. When you are down the next time, inviting you one more time to bring knees to belly. Beautiful. We're going to rotate onto our right side embryo pose. If you're able to use your right hand to hold the outside of the left thigh, knees straight forward to the hips, and then opening through that top arm. And what I love about coming in and out of twist is I get to really warm and unwind, not just the spine, which is the name of the pose, spinal twist. I get to really come into contact with my tension across the front, through the chest, into the bicep, and so on. And that is actually a huge part of what pulls on our trapezius and neck muscles, is that tension through the front. Yeah. So at some point in that open position, please play with sweeping the arm up and back down. Oh, Lord, that feels good. I'm just doing it standing. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And I already stretched this morning for the record. Jeez. At some point, would it feel good to extend your top leg out into your waiting hand? So if you do that, please prop that right elbow. Yeah, so you're not holding the weight of your leg through your shoulder and neck. Right? Nice support. And again, maybe your leg is straight, maybe it's not. Sometimes I like to bend and re-straighten and flexing through that foot. I find, again, I get kind of an unwinding, that communication of IT band and calf muscles and so on, that I often don't feel how tight they are until I'm in this kind of shape. Would it feel good to hold and draw one more really deep breath, maybe apply a little pressure as if you're trying to bring your foot closer to your ear? Good. Please make sure to return that leg to bent before you try to come to the other side. Maybe return to embryo pose, then roll over. You know, what's exciting about doing yoga, as long as you all have, is your body starts to inform you and tell you what's needed, right? So I throw out all kinds of options, but even then you might crave one I didn't even notice. Are you guys tickling each other's feet? Is that what's going on here? I'm glad you didn't pinch it. So again, as you start to open and close, what parts of your body are you able to communicate with, become aware of maybe differences from the other side? There's so many things we do that are one-sided. You know, a lot of us who are gardeners and weeders tend to just do things with one arm. Not great, but we do. Golfers, right? It's a very rotational thing. One-sided. Yeah. You use both sides of your bodies, but in different repetitive ways. Yeah. At some point, holding in that open position and exploring arm all the way up behind you, back down. Sometimes I crave a big circle across the body. Sometimes rotating the head away from the hand. You can also point and flex through the hand. I didn't offer that on the other side, but that can be so helpful. And at some point, perhaps extending that top leg, maybe bending and straightening. Bending and straightening. And then holding, please find your place of best stretch. Draw a deep breath. Isn't it fascinating when you deepen the breath in a stretch like this, how much it changes the stretch? I sometimes feel it in my IT band and hip, and you're like, wait, I don't breathe there. So it's such a great reminder of our breath's capacity to help us unwind pretty much every part of the body. And at some point, returning to your back body, where we're going to come into bridge. Again, you can come in and out a few times. We're going to do our foot hover. Please minimize the foot hover, meaning just take it a little off the floor, but hold if you can, and scan the neck shoulder area, inviting it to be really liquid. Sometimes just working the shoulder blades towards each other underneath you can give you more neck release. What's it like to be you today? When you feel complete, please come on down. Maybe bring your knees into your belly again. Maybe what feels good. Yeah, and we're going to take the feet wide in our horse riding stance. If you want to press up briefly, go for it. And mainly, I'm really interested in that windshield wiper that helps us explore, again, that deep inner line, outer line. You know, this is a really classic case of things that can get tight and wound, and especially in an uneven way. Again, maybe your head is moving side to side or just moving one direction. The next one, your knee is down, instead of taking the matching arm, reaching up behind. And we've been doing this a lot in recent months, but I invite you to engage and pull the arm down isometrically, like you're pulling on something heavy, and reach up again. You know, I often talk about how this is like WD-40 or something. Again, if you want to unwind, unstick, it's much more helpful to pulse than it is to crank on something, right? Circles back and forth. Check out the other side, do that same thing. When I do this, I can get into some of the deep tension around my low back and hips. And again, like, you don't think of this necessarily as a back stretch. And if you're not as tight as me, you might not feel it there. When you're complete, come back to center, let the knees settle wide, the soles of the feet together. Butterfly. Deep, abiding breath down into the belly, low back, really fill the bucket. And then if you'd like, raise the hips up off of the mat. It's interesting, when I've had a period of a lot of thinking, doing, talking, winding up, one of the things that I'll notice is that I can't listen to certain music that I normally like. It's too many words, or it's too fast of a beat. And I'll sometimes have to revert to really different zony music that's really slow. And we know that music, smells, and touch, and all these things play upon our nervous system and our physicality in really deep ways. So it's kind of fun to think about. Again, what are some of those tools that you might use for your unwinding? And holding for another 3 breaths, perhaps. See if you can be even softer in the neck than you thought you could. Settling down, let your legs go straight, maybe they're wider than the typical corpse pose. You might again roll the head side to side, which, believe it or not, creates a spinal twist. Even though we're not doing it with the whole spine, we're affecting it. I love that. And then similarly, we're going to massage the spine with belly pump. Let's take a big inhale. Exhale, empty. Hold out and begin. Draw in. Press out. This is all without breathing until you need to. Whew, I tell you, sometimes it makes me almost lightheaded. You're right. You're really working some of those deep blood chains, and all your organs are getting flushed with fresh blood. Talking to those guts that can hold so much tension. One of the things that I notice is when I'm really wound up, I really actually need to do less caffeine. The caffeine will really get me kind of almost jittery, but also kind of mess with my center where everything gets just a little too fast, if you know what I mean. So even thinking about foods and liquids and how they can help kind of ground and unwind us, or vice versa, sugar, caffeine, etc. All right, let's come into a knees to belly one more time before we come into pigeon. Having you do your reclined pigeon, but if any of you prefer classic pigeon, you're very welcome to. And a reminder, the more you listen inward and get organic here, the better. So, I will often start with both hands on the knee. In this case, my right knee is in. And I'm going to hug that as tightly to my chest as I can, and then send it a little towards the center line. That gives me a very particular location of stretch from a piriformis, etc. Then, after a few breaths of that, I might hold my foot as well and kind of move a little back and forth, bringing first the knee closer and then the foot closer, and then taking it all a little side to side. So just, any angle you can find that brings you into some release in those hips. Enjoy. At some point, the switch, you might take that leg to the sky, flex, roll, and then across that other ankle. And just hugging the knee tightly to the chest. I find if I flex both feet, the pose evolves in some really nice ways. Sending that knee towards the center line. Is this side different? And then maybe holding the foot, pulsing, playing. It's kind of nice to think of our body as something to play with, to be curious about, lovingly exploring it. It's very different than how we kind of use it as this container to do our bidding most of the time. When you feel complete again, you might straighten, bend, flex, etc. roll. And I'm going to invite you to do one more expression of bridge or horse riding stance, whatever feels good. Just a nice squeeze. Lovely. And then we're going to come onto our hands and knees, table pose, from cow cat. Nice, intelligent hands. Inhale, tailbone reaches back, heart drops forward. Exhaling, tuck the tailbone and let that curl go all the way up, letting the head. As we continue this, feel free to play with head movements. When you're in your arch of cow pose, it's natural for the head to come up a little bit, but we're not cranking it. We don't want to force it. We don't want to shorten those vertebrae at the back. When we're in our cat back, it's a perfect place to gently move the head, a little shaking, yes, no. At some point in your cat back, taking your ribs to the left and looking out over your right shoulder. Vice versa. Sometimes I'll bring the hips back towards the heels during this to kind of emphasize that side body stretch. And I'm essentially then going to invite you from here into a kind of half puppy, because I just find for me, it's the place I can best liberate my chest and shoulders. So nice core support, and you bend your elbows and reach one hand actively forward, and then settle your forehead to the floor, or if you can't and it's hanging, but that feels good and safe, fine. And in both versions, you can kind of swing a little side to side. If you have a sort of insecure shoulder, it's not quite stable, be really careful during this and underdo, maybe hold in neutral, not side to side, and just breathe. And of course, at some point, switching, and we're always curious. Is this side different? Oh, good, I love it. I've seen people make some nice circles and organic movement before they go to the other side, really listening inward. When you feel complete, you'll come back to both hands and we'll be making our way to our first downward facing dog or bear pose. So you can take those feet wider if you want. We want to just feel really stable and secure in the shoulders before we begin working the back body and tumbling one foot at a time. So make sure you're anchored through the thumb and the index finger pads. Rotate those shoulder heads open away from the spine. Nice core support. And never hesitate to take your hands a little wider if it feels like it liberates the neck and trapezius area. Beautiful. That was a nice choice there, Laura. I love it. Paddling and pressing. And if you feel that you can at one point, hold both heels firmly towards the floor in downward dog. We don't mean on the floor, just wherever they get to. And take 1, 2, or 3 breaths into that. And again, I'm hoping you can feel how the breath expands and elevates the stretch. And we're going to slowly walk the hands back towards the feet, ragdoll. Maybe the feet are in that mountain stance right below the hips. Maybe they're wider, whatever feels great. They are 2 very different stretches, but both useful. And again, I'm going to ask you to tune into breath, massaging belly and back. So we didn't do compression and expansion breathing on our back body, but I'd ask you to come into that best you can here. Nice long inhales. If you have to kind of lift out of your fold to help with that. Powerful exhales, belly to spine. And what I find is when I use that compression exhale to fold, I get a completely different type of stretch in my back body, hamstrings and low back and so on. We're gonna come in and out of folding, and I would ask you to just really be thoughtful about how you do it. If you need to support on your thighs, you can. Otherwise, mainly, as you inhale, just drop your hips into chair pose. So now our neck is supported by the spine, we're not hanging. And inhale up, reaching like you're pushing the ceiling away. Hold here and standing and push your arms out like you're pushing walls away. Good, and then you can point down and flex back up. And then at some point, rotate your palms all the way up and maybe keep going so your thumbs keep rotating back and down. Then reach a little more vigorously through your middle fingers out to the sides. And relax them. Good. Inhale, rise, big sweep, glute squeeze if you want. Looking up maybe. Exhaling, fold, knees bend. That is the last thing today. Full breath. On your inhale, when it comes, drop the butt to chair. Root rise. Lovely. This time we're going to bring those arms out to the side. And I'm going to rotate my head and look at that right hand. Left hand again, I'm pushing the walls away. Nice. And then let them go. And I'm going to bring my left arm around behind in a partial bind. Use my right hand just with courage and see if I can get the elbow further in and the hand further up, right at the back of my heart. Then I'm going to take my right arm and I'm rotating the palm to the ceiling. I'm going to place it on the other part of my back, whatever I can reach. Kind of fun just to see if your neck fingers can say hello. Just take a nice deep breath. Think about long distance call. That is funny. 25 years of teaching, I have never heard that. Oh my God, I hope I remember that I have to tell Jason. He's gonna love that. Okay. Deep breath, drop it in the front. And then ever so slowly unwind the arms. Just kind of sense what's in your shoulders. Roll out those wrists. Beautiful. And we'll find the other one. So now we're gonna take the right arm around behind, use the left hand to help it out. You can see I've taken my feet wide. I'm in a little bit of an athletic stance. I just find I'm less likely to arch or do fun things. And the other hand up and over, and yeah, I've got one that's tall on this side too. Yeah. So notice the side to side difference. It kind of helps us understand some of the winding and imbalance there might be. Deep breath. And then slowly let the arms slide down and out, and love it. And briefly, yoga mudra, we're not going to stay here, just a brief expression. Before releasing, sweeping up. Nice long inhale. Is there more? Exhaling, fold. That is the last thing. Hold breath. Inhaling, sit to chair. Rise up. Exhaling, prayer hands. We're going to lift that right knee, standing crane. Check in with your jaw, tongue, shoulders. Get into that core. Everything else all relaxed. Big inhale. On the exhale, draw back firmly through the core so that we can step forward with grace. Oh, that's pretty quiet. Nice job. Right hip bone shines back as left hip bone shines forward. Just so we feel that thigh connection. We're going to reach up through the arms, and then we're going to rotate open to the right, looking behind. Feels okay on you. And then back to center. We're going to do this twice more. There's no goal to get to a certain place. Mainly, I ask of you that your arm is straight out from the body. In other words, I'm not cranking my arm back, trying to get more open. So it should just feel really good and powerful. Beautiful. Last time, we'll inhale back to center. Exhaling, we're going to settle the warrior two. Always check that that front knee is tracking. And if you can scooch to get deeper, that's usually a good thing, right? What we don't want is our knee coming forward to the heel at all. Breathe and notice what it feels like to look out behind you. How about clatter hands? How about turning the world's largest doorknob? And then I'm gonna add a partial bind as I go to exalted warrior. So I'm gonna take my left arm around behind and the back of my hand is on my low back. I can actually bring it around a little bit front. Inhaling, reaching up, look down because I find it's easier on my. So let's do that. Another nice breath there. Kind of relax into it a little bit and then reach and deepen. As you're ready, exhaling, slow forward lateral stretch. Pause, please, before you release your left arm and just see if you can open that left shoulder back a little more. Don't let it take your knee with it. So sometimes I'll use my arm as a reminder. And then slowly open and reach forward. Maybe you like that pull and reach, go for it. And in a moment, we're going to rotate out to downward facing dog. If you don't like that, go to straddle. But when you do that, please plant that left hand, then rotate onto the ball of the back foot. And don't go anywhere until you're firmly in your core. So I'm going to inhale, exhale, belly to spine, and try to lift the foot. Downward facing dog, you got it. We're inviting you to either hold, rest, or flow. If you'd like to flow with me, dog series, inhale into your plank. I really recommend knees down. I've not been doing this daily. Exhaling, chaturanga might be a 1-inch elbow bend. That is soft. All the way down to our cobra, or if you prefer, upward dog, everything is knee down first. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Big breath, size or otherwise. I love duck on the top of my head when I sigh or exhale through the mouth and downward dog. Just imagining that duck. Go ahead and walk those hands back to your feet. Full breath. Is there more? Is there more? Inhale, drop the butt, rise. Exhaling, prayer hands, standing crane, lifting the left knee. Yoga toes. What does this side feel like? Remember that when we're working balance, which this is, as we're moving forward especially, anchoring through the inner line of that standing foot. Now, big inhale, exhale, belly draws back. As I reach forward, light as a feather. Well done. Left hip bone back, right forward. Inhale, jump. Now remember that back leg does not have to be straight, but it does need to be on the ball of the back foot, so your knee is getting forward. Exhale and rotate left. Inhale, return. And you need it if you want. Exhale left. Take all the time with this, your own breath cycle. One more time. Okay, that's soft. Back to center, long inhale, on a little back, and go for it. Make sure to return to your core as you open up to your warrior two. It's really important that we're pushing with that back foot. Remember, that's what keeps the knee from collapsing with pressure, is we're actually engaging deeply back foot, back leg. You guys look amazing. Yeah. Peaceful, powerful. Virabhadrasana. All right, we're gonna take that right hand around behind in a partial bind, unless your shoulders don't well with that. Inhale, reach up. Like I said, I'm gonna hang out here for a couple breaths and kind of relax it and reach it. Relax it and reach it. And then forward to lateral stretch. You should feel rooted power coming from that back leg that allows you to very gently settle that left elbow. And I'm gonna again wait to unwind my back arm until I know I've established my right shoulder as far back as I go. Then unwind very slowly, reach forward. If you like, pulse and reach. Oh man, I'm amazed by the stretch I can get with that. Goes right to like my top of my hip bone and so is. Anybody else get that? Yeah. All right, when you're ready, exit to our dog theory. Slow rotation, hand plant, pause, nice inhale to that left hip bone is back, right hip bone forward, so you're in a nice supported core. And again, I invite you to hold, rest, or flow. So hold downward facing dog. rest in child's pose, floated dog series or something else. Maybe you just want to come to your belly and do cobra pumping. If you're doing plank to chaturanga, remember to just bend the elbows. Don't let the shoulders hang, right? So better to go small and with integrity and alignment. Looking great. We're going to then end up at the back of the mat again. So ragdoll, when you're ready, you'll walk those hands back. Big breath. How has this changed since we started doing folding earlier? Hopefully you're feeling just more fluid. And as you're ready, inhale, drop the butt to chair. Come on. Your hands tune into your mountain stance, your breath. So in mountain stance, there's an active rooting into the earth that helps us rise up through the crown. We feel our core organized, and we feel that the shoulders can just then slide down. Let's give a little neck love with touch. Let's bring our hands around into the collar. And you can just rotate the head along. The hands, you can also add a little pressure, right? And attract under. Excellent. We're going to come into yoga mudra, and after that, we're going to go sideways on our mat straddle, and I'll invite you to do it again. So those of you who use a strap, you'll want to keep it within reach of your straddle. So the reason we might use a strap is we might not be able to get our arms straight without it, or to get our shoulder heads to anchor down, or to be able to move our hands up off of the hips at all. So it's that activity of the hands moving away from the hips that is rotating and moving that whole area around the shoulder blade. The shoulder blade, its ability to be fluid, highly impacts the trapezius muscle. We all think of the trapezius here in this here. And so if our shoulder blade is sort of stuck in that outward position, we won't be able to create fluidity in the much needed areas that we're all pointing to, right? So when in doubt, you can take your hands wider on the strap. And if you'd like, you can take your feet a little bit wider. So the option again in a straddle in a moment, but you can go a little wider and see if having your hands wider on the strap makes a difference. All really slow movements because there are a lot of delicate connections up and around the clavicle and so on. A lot of nerve fibers moving through there, so we know. Yeah. And while you're in the shape, what happens if you blossom a deep breath? What happens if you rotate just slightly right or left? And then as you're ready, release those arms down, and you might just sort of breathe and sweep the area around. And on a long inhale, drop the butt to chair. Rise up. Exhale, and let's sit sideways on the mat. And let's go always. Nobody's not close enough that you're going to be uncomfortably, nose to nose. So you get to. Now, as you go side to side initially, anchor those feet, but really listen inward. Get deep curiosity to the knees, the hips. What's been going on in your body? And, you may have felt it somewhere specific. Maybe your winding shows up in low back or something, but maybe you had no idea how to connect fingers. And if it would feel good, you might take the hands all the way to the floor. But either way, we're going to hold to one side. You can have one hand, both hands. They can be up on the thigh. Let breath influence. Let breath undulate the pose. Let breath take the stretch to those deepest, tightest spots. I know some of us enjoy the dropping one heel. That's always an option. At some point, we'll come back to center fold, intertwine yoga mudra again or with the strap. If you like an extra challenge, you could do a non-dominant hand clasp. So if you normally your left thumb is on top, intertwined so the right is on top. Again, pulsing, noticing, breathing. When you come out, options, folks, you can use those fists to pull down and bring you up. You could let your arms just go to the floor. From here, you could rotate your hands to the front of the mat for one more expression of downward dog or dog series if you wanted it. You could just find a gentle way out. We're going to be coming into quadricep stretch. So if you like being on your belly, you'll end there, standing, an option, right? I'm happy to assist with straps, support. Okay. Breathe, notice. Say just subtly, please, with your position of your knee. Is it a little to the outside of neutral? Is it a little to the inside? Try to find that place where there's a really wonderful stretch, but no torque or tension in the knee. And just always listen to the knee. It's like, I can't receive this today, honor that. Remember to let your shoulder head be drawn back and in. Right? So this is actually another wonderful stretch for that tight chest area, if you let it. Take your time and switch. Anybody who needs a strap, doesn't have one handy, let me know. Again, we love our arms straight, just really letting the stretch bring the blade towards the spine. Oh. Breath is our change agent for sure, and I hope you've already felt that so distinctly in practice. Take your time. When you're complete, you might feel that you need child's pose. Sometimes the low back feels like downward pressure. Maybe you're wanting full bow pose where you get a hold of both ankles and press the ankles back into the hands. I do find that gives me different type of stretch in my quads because you're actively pressing and having to help the straps once that. And then please just notice if there's anything in particular your body's craving. I'm going to have us close with some breath work and specifically the support with the bra strap. But maybe you're like, hey, I will not be satisfied if I haven't done forearm plank because maybe you just haven't done it at all without me. What's that? Let's do that. Yeah, why not? Let's do it. Yeah, it's, again, language is so fun. Like, it's so different to be like, yeah, we could do that, or let's do that versus like, I got to do that. So I think a big part of finding a gentleness in life and a gentleness with ourselves, as well as those around us, is thoughtfully choosing our language, noticing the effects that it has on us. I love the word deleterious. Such a great word. Deleterious? Deleterious effects would be like negative effects. Yeah. Never heard it? It's such a great word. Deleterious. D-E-L-E-T-I-T. I-T-E-R-I-O-U-S. Didn't know there was going to be a spelling bee this morning. Audacity. A what? Oh, going back to the abusive boyfriend would be deleterious for your health. Yeah. That's right. We never know how much fun we're going to have here until we get here together. It's just a grand mystery until it unfolds. Right. When you feel complete with whatever else you've been, yeah, jet airplane, awesome. Invite you to create your support under the bra strap. In order to really reduce neck and shoulder tension and to not take any on, we might need something smaller and more delicate than a block. Or using a block, we might do you have another blanket that I can like that? This is the pose that I prescribe as my massage. Because again, everyone struggles with tension. Oh. Let the palms rotate open, and then if you like, you can play with the one arm at a time for the ceiling, then coming back. Would it feel good to pulse that arm out away from the ear and then back in? Again, this will help with kind of dislodging the stuck shoulder blade. So you can't already tell that that's what's happening. That's what's happening. Again, if you want to add a little stretch through the front, you might rotate the head away from that arm as it's kind of out at 90 degrees. Eventually releasing to a neutral, maybe a few deep breaths here before you roll off to one side, or maybe you spend part of your breath practice in Shavasana with the support if you've got something pretty delicate, small underneath you. And invite you to first come into a few sighing breaths again. They're probably a little different in texture than when we started, hopefully, because we've already moved a lot through our bodies. At some point, I'm going to invite you to move into, for me, what is one of my favorite unwindings tools, which is just the simple breath blocks, holding out and holding in. But if you know you have a strong preference towards box breath, for example, or the 4-6-8 breath, which is a classic relaxation technique, feel free to do that. That's that inhaling 4, holding in 6, and exhaling 8, or something like that. When you're creating your breath blocks, and the goal is with awareness to hold as long as we possibly can, asking, soften around this, can I melt, spread, allow, without letting it become a struggle. Then you release the block into the next, so holding out, holding in. And it's been shown that one thing that we can do that is immediately and deeply healing for us is to tune into physical sensation. It's the opposite of doing and winding. And I really believe it helps unwind us in some just mysterious ways that we may or may not even notice in the moment. You found a really wonderful rhythm with your breath practice. Feel free to continue it. Otherwise, at any time, you can let it go. Let your body and being settle into your yogic rest, or the body begins to calibrate, feel. With each exhale, you might invite a deeper sinking, softening, spreading the body. It's planting yourself here for a great long while. Just begin to expand each breath with it, light awareness of the room that we share. Fellow yogis also coming slowly to the surface. And then beyond that, a world out there, the river of life. Inviting you in this moment to hope more mental quiet and deeper integration, body, mind, spirit. Perhaps ask yourself, to what extent are you wound up? Maybe even what's doing the winding. It's a particular experience or thought form, period of time in your life. What tools might be your best ones for helping in the unwinding process? I think it's also helpful to have a target to shoot for. And when I think about contentment, santosha, that helps me kind of feel my way towards a state that is unwound. Santosha, contentment. Thank each one of you for coming today, for your just beautiful curiosity and power and peace. It's really fun to watch you, even though we haven't been together for weeks. You people looked amazing, just great core integrity and no wings, no shots. Hope you feel great the rest of your week, and I will see you next week, if not this Thursday. Om Shanti Shanti. Om peace, peace. Namaste.